Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to start looking at conditionals and if statements. And if you don't know what I mean by if statements because you've never done any programming before, don't worry, this is going to be super simple. If statements are basically a way of controlling the flow of logic in our code. So occasionally we're going to need to be able to do something in our code based on some condition. For example, think of a game. Say the game is over once the player's score reaches 100. So if the player's score is greater than or equal to 100, we want to finish the game. Maybe print out a message. So that's an example of an if statement. Let's jump into the code and take a look. Now I'm going to remove all this previous code because we don't need that for the time being. And we're just going to work in the main method for this, I think. So just to sort of prove the example that we were just talking about, let's create a integer called player score. Player score. And we will set that to 100. Now the way we write an if statement is we use the keyword if, and then inside these brackets we put our condition. So in our example it's going to be if the player score is equal to 100. And if it is equal to 100, I'm just going to print out a message. Player has won. And if we just run that, we should see the message player has won because player score is equal to 100. I just want to focus on these two equal signs here. Whenever you see these two equal signs in Java, you always want to say in your head is equal to. You want to read this as if player score is equal to 100, then do this. So let's just run it and make sure that works. Amazing, player has won. Now within here we have lots of different conditions we can use. So I could say if the player score was less than or equal to 100, which as we know, that should still be true. I could say if the player score is greater than or equal to 100, which will still be true and we'll still see the message. I could also say if the player score is not equal to 100. So I'd expect this now not to print this message out because this condition is now false. Player score equals 100. It doesn't not equal 100. So let's just run this and make sure we don't see anything printed out, which we don't. Amazing. So I'm just going to leave this back to is equal to for the time being because that's going to be fine. We can also change this to make sure. So it shouldn't print out in this case because we've changed the actual player score now. Perfect. So as well as using the if block, there's also an else block. And we just write the else block by doing that. So now we're saying if the player score is equal to 100, I want to execute the code inside here. Else, I want to execute the code inside here. So I'm going to say player lost. Let's give that a run. We should still expect player has won. Now if I change the player's score to anything other than 100, we should see player has lost. And we do. Perfect. So here we've got an if-else block. Now there's also something else you can do with an if statement where, because you might want to check multiple things. You might want to check if the player's score is equal to 100. And then you might want to say, well, if it's above 90. So, yeah, because you might want to say the player who's got a score above 90 is winning, let's say. So what we can do, we can stick another if statement here. So if player score is greater than 90, we'll just say player winning. And then we'll add our else back on here. And we'll just copy this and say player lost. So let's read this through from line 6. If the player score is equal to 100, I want to print out the player has won. Else, if the player score is greater than 90, I want to print out player winning. And else, if neither of these things are true, I just want to print out player lost. So let's try all them conditions. I should see player has won. Perfect. Now if I change this to, let's say, knight e1, I should see player winning. Perfect. And if I change this last one, I should see player lost. So if neither of these two first things are true, then I should see player lost. Let's give that a go. Perfect. And that is basically if statements in a nutshell. The only thing I suppose I've missed out is that an if statement doesn't need to contain one conditional. So you can do something like if player score is equal to 100 and player score is greater than 95, you could say player is almost won, something like that. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. But the main point is that you can stick as many of these things here as you like. So you can say player score is equal to 100. This doesn't have to be and either. It could be or. And the way we do or... sorry, I've got a brand new keyboard and the layout has not been set up quite correctly for it. If I could still try and use a Windows keyboard. Just give me 1 second. Oh wow, I have to go and copy that from a website because I physically don't know where it is on this Windows keyboard. But like here, so you can either say or by using two of these signs, or you can say and by using that. And that's all if statements are. They're just conditions inside a block, which you either do something if it's true, or do something if it's not. And it is as simple as that. So I'm going to leave it there for if statements today because I think we've gone on quite a bit with this. We'll focus on switch statements, which are very, very similar in the next lesson. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next lesson. See you later. Bye-bye.